Welcome to the podcast. We Do Recover with Jared Miller, your host.
And I'm Dr. Terry Sellers, your co-host.
This is a podcast about recovery from addiction.
We want to talk about what successful recovery can look like.
Brought to you by Steps Recovery Center, Rise Up Subs, and the St. George Hilton Garden Inn.
Listeners, welcome to episode 147. Today's title is going to be Freewheeling with Hosts because, frankly, we had a guest, and then 15 minutes before he was going to join us via Skype, he couldn't make it. Understandably, life happens. So we're just here to free will it.
We don't know what we're doing.
Free willy, baby.
I guess the point is we have no idea what we're doing right now. We're going to get on and ramble for an hour, 45 minutes, whatever it is.
We got a couple ideas, but we'll see where the conversation goes.
It's not going to be a very structured podcast today for sure.
Which
but we got
love that.
We got some topics to talk about, and I love it. I love the...
You'd be a great improv actor.
I'm not good at the... I don't know if I don't know how I would do as an actor.
You could play a doctor.
I'm not sure about that, honestly, because I don't know. I've thought about it before, like trying to do some... I have a good friend who did some improv classes. And it was improv, like comedy stuff, right? And... that person did that just to grow and expand. And I went and watched a couple of the things that they did as a troupe. It was this whole sort of troupe. And I don't know if I could do that.
Yeah?
I don't know.
Wasn't quite your jam?
Yeah,
I
it was
think it'd
weird.
be fun to do it.
It might be, and maybe if I wasn't so self-conscious.
Allow
maybe.
yourself to be a little goofy,
I
a
think
little
that's
silly.
I think if you can... If you're not as uptight about how you appear to others as I am, then it would be fun.
For sure. You'd have to let the ego relax.
Yeah,
right?
which is not my strong suit, letting my ego relax.
Yeah. You'd have to let those protectors and managers just ease out.
Yeah, my ego's on call all the time.
Well, listen, let's show our sponsor some love.
Okay.
Episode 147, part 1 is brought to us by Steps Recovery Centers. Steps Recovery Centers is an adult substance abuse and mental health treatment provider. Steps Recovery Centers provides all levels of care. They have a medical detox facility, multiple residential treatment centers, and outpatient services reaching from the top of Utah to the bottom. Recovery starts with you, and at Steps Recovery Centers, there is always hope. Call them today at 801-800-8142. That's 801-800-8142. Or visit their website at stepsrc.com to learn more.
Okay, sorry, I thought you were done, and I interrupted a little bit, but yeah, give Steps. Steps is a really good place, and if you really have, if you know someone who needs help with substance abuse, they're a great resource, and they'll get you where you need to go, even if it's not Steps.
Honestly, right? I've worked for a number of treatment centers, and I'm not going to say names, whatever, but you get a vibe. You get a feel when you're working for a treatment center what the priority is.
Right.
And one of the things that I genuinely, this isn't scripted, this is just genuinely that I enjoy working for Steps. The reason is because the quality of care with the clients.
Yeah.
Like, you're not just a number. You're not just an insurance billable policy. There are times when people can't afford, they start with insurance and they can't afford their copays. They're willing to work with them. Like, it's not driven solely financially. Does that make sense?
Sure. I'm going to interrupt for a second because I know we have a second sponsor we're going to get to in just a second, but
it's freewheeling, baby.
That's what we're doing, right? One of the things I heard today, and I know for a fact you've heard this like a dozen times or 50 times, right? The patient came into my office on Wednesday and read me this 7-page manifesto that he had written about one of the places that I was working. And of course, one of his accusations was, we keep patients longer just so that we can suck more money out of patients. Now, I neglected to tell that guy that his insurance stopped paying us 3 weeks ago, and he's still there and we're scholarshiping him.
Right.
Happens all the time in the treatment industry because honestly, most people, not all, but most people, most people in the treatment industry, first of all, have some personal connection to recovery.
Yeah, either themselves, a family member.
Right. And the ones that don't are just helpers, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I've met a number of therapists who have no connection to recovery at all, but therapists as a general rule, like helping people out.
Yeah.
Right. That's why they go into that. If you don't like helping people, don't be a therapist, because that's going to be a terrible job for you.
I feel like every clinician has a moderate level of codependency for sure.
For sure. So basically everyone in the industry that I'm aware of, sure, everyone likes to make money. No one hates it, right? Except we're all doing that not for that, because there are other jobs in other industries that pay way better. I am currently making 1/10 of what I made as an OB. Maybe even less than that. No, not less than that, but I'm making maybe close to 1/10 of what I made as an OB. I'm not in this to make a ton of money.
Yeah.
Because there's other ways to make a ton of money.
Yeah, definitely. And that's honestly one of the things I really respect about our sponsor, Steps Recovery Centers, is like they treat the human being, not the policy number.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, we have another sponsor.
Yes.
You know our other sponsor, who it is?
Rise Up Supplements.
Rise Up Supplements is a nootropic supplement line aimed at optimizing brain function and supporting mental health. They have 2 powerful blends, that is Rise Up Supplements, and one is called Mindful Mood, which helps decrease anxiety and enhance mood. And then the second blend is Mind Shift, which helps increase focus and optimize brain function. You can place your order at Rise Up Subs. That's RiseUpSups.com. RiseUpSubs.com. We both believe that we have done a lot of damage to our brains over time through the use of substances that were damaging to our brains. And optimal brain function takes quite a while, but can be sped up some by the use of proper neurochemicals that can help your brain heal.
Say Rise Up Sups with some vigor, Terry.
Rise Up Sups.
There you go. One more time.
Rise Up Sups.
Wanted to add the echo there with you.
right.
All right, we're good.
Rise Up Sups, baby.
And if you don't know what a nootropic is, Google it, right?
Yes,
because
right.
like, do some research. Don't just take our word for it because it's a sponsor. Like,
Right.
do some research. There are a lot of supplements out there that do a lot of different things. This
Sure.
isn't like if you're hoping to get muscles in the gym, this isn't your gig.
Right.
If you're hoping for some memory recall, some mental clarity,
Yep.
you know,
Some ability to focus. some-
ability to focus.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. All right. Well,
I
Jared.
got a couple things.
Okay.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to go new and goods.
Yeah, let's do it.
What's new and good in your world? I'm
New-
not really. We didn't even talk about this because we had a guest canceled just as we said earlier, just before the show started, and so we don't have a plan, right? And so a lot of times, at least we have a couple of things planned out. Like when I'm in the studio, sometimes I'm the primary driver, and sometimes Jared's the primary driver. We don't even know who that is today. We didn't even
Right.
talk about that.
We're both just battling
Right.
for the steering wheel.
So right. So this bus is going to go off the rails for sure. But what's new and good in your world?
New and goods. I actually, as part of kind of my upcoming recovery events announcements, I was asked to be the MC at Talent in the Park.
Oh,
That's June 8th, 2024. If you guys remember to last year, Sean, I sent you a couple pictures. I don't know if you're able to.
Oh, yeah, you did. I completely forgot till you mentioned it right now. I'll pull it up. Give me a second. Keep talking.
Yeah, no worries. So they have Joe Nestor, who's coming from Florida, and then they have Kalichi, who's coming from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Pittsburgh. Yep.
And both of those two individuals have been on this podcast. We've interviewed each of them individually, and then
Yep.
we've interviewed them together and
Yep.
listened to their very powerful music that carries a message. So I'm excited for that. If you want to come,
These are big time musicians. This is not amateur hour. These are guys with multiple albums. I get I'm old, right? People don't call them albums anymore, but these guys have multiple tracks and
Hey, who's that
albums.
furry guy on the right side?
The furry guy on the right.
Oh
is
my
Jared.
gosh.
Oh, it's Jared when you tried to grow a beard.
Yeah.
So that
Nice try.
was the first time
Wait
I
a sec.
co-emceed it with DC. Do you recognize the guy on the left?
Who's the guy on the left?
Big Buddha.
Buddha.
That's
Little, that's medium Buddha.
Yeah,
I
Big
know.
Buddha is not big anymore. He's medium.
So the funny thing about that is we go on stage and Buddha's like razzing me, giving me a hard time. He's like, Jared, take off your shirt for the audience. Let's see those muscles. And I was like, listen, buddy, I would call you Big Buddha, but you're half the size you used to be. You should probably be the one to take off your shirt. You're in great
Exactly.
shape.
Big
So-
Buddha. Well, these are real artists. Like, this is a show. This is a quality show for sure.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I'm not a hip hop guy, right? I'm old. I like old rock and roll. I like the 60s and protest music and that sort of stuff. But I really enjoyed the show, and the messages are great. Like the power in the music and the message that they bring about recovery is worth coming to see.
Yeah, well said. And I appreciate Chantal inviting me to come back for a third year to MC, and so it'll be
that's
fun.
Cool. Super cool.
MCing's a little nerve-wracking because you got to schedule and you got to try to keep on the schedule and you got to fill, or you got to be the glue and the grease, right? You either got to slow it down or you got to speed it up. But it's fun. I enjoy it. I genuinely enjoy it. I love like seeing people and getting out and talking to people at these events. So June 8th, if you're in Ogden, Utah, it's at the Ogden Amphitheater. Come say hi, man. Come show us some love.
Yeah.
Tickets are only $20.
It's
$20.
It's a good $20, and it's a great family event.
And then the cool thing is all the profits go towards helping people get into Valley Camp who doesn't accept insurance, who's just like people that genuinely are down and out,
that need help.
So yeah,
Come
Town
help
in
out.
the Park,
Come help out your fellow mankind.
SJS Shannon J Scholarship organization does a great job. I'm looking forward to that.
Let me just.
I also
let's
just
stay on
finished
that,
up the
though.
other half of my. Oh, go ahead.
Stay on that for a second.
Okay.
I helped you MC once, right? And,
Yes.
And I'm
That was when we piggybacked off.
I'm
the show.
I'm freewheeling, by the way. I'm good at freewheeling. I like it. I go back and I went back and looked at that, and I'm like, golly, you're terrible at this. Like,
you weren't.
no, I was. I really was. Like, I went back and looked at my performance, whatever it is. Right? I went back
Your
and looked
time
at
on
it.
the mic.
Yeah, and I just I'm okay. I'm relatively comfortable on a mic. That stuff doesn't bug me, but I just thought I looked like an absolute amateur on that, and so I took some things and took some mental notes for if I ever do this again. But that's a difficult gig for sure.
You know, the thing that I think about, though, is just remembering that night. That was down here in St. George. We did a fundraiser for the Sobriety Foundation, Susan Peterson, her organization. The thing, how fun was that, though, to hang backstage?
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
Right? You got like your own room with snacks and drinks and just talking with the artists and camaraderie.
Good
like
guy.
that's what
Good
recovery's
people, for
about,
sure.
right? Is like being around some people that have a clear head.
Do you know
that you enjoy being
Do you know what
around?
I remember most about that night?
What's that?
You'll remember this, but it may not be the thing that struck you the most. But this is what struck me the most. It was on a Sunday. Was it on a Sunday?
I believe so.
I think it was. It was on a
Saturday.
Sunday.
It was on a
Maybe it was
Saturday.
on a Saturday night. I don't remember. But we had a turnout that I thought was not as good as it should have been and could have been. And you know, I was a little angry at maybe a few local treatment centers who didn't really couldn't find the time to bring their people and blah blah blah. And I'm like, this is a beautiful event. Like, it turned out really nice, right?
Super cool.
So I'm a little down about the attendance and because I mean, we had some big time artists out here, right?
Yeah.
I think they deserved more respect than they got, and the respect is more people showing up, right? But I was a little down about that, and you and I backstage were talking to Mike Peterson, who's Susan's husband, who was recalling the first Sobriety Foundation event they ever did, where they had like 3 people show up or something, and he was like, just don't worry about it. We started with an event that had like 3 or 4 people show up, and this is really decent attendance. And I was kind of down about it, and it was nice because it was encouraging.
You know, the thing in hindsight, I'm absolutely right there with you. The takeaway for me was this. The goal was to raise money. We sold over 300 tickets. We may have only had less than 100 show up,
Right.
but we sold over 300 tickets.
Right.
And also, we did it on the same weekend as the Unity Draft.
Right.
That's coming back up again. That's another one of my event announcements. Unity 2024 St. George Unity Draft. That's going to be April 27th. So last year we did it the same weekend as that.
Right.
I don't remember if it was, I think it was Sunday.
Which
It was on a Sunday.
Right.
And people were most likely down here for the Unity Draft, playing sober softball, and then they were driving home. And so
Right.
they may have bought a ticket to support and help raise money, but they got to work Monday morning.
Yeah, I thought that the fact that they were having the softball tournament that weekend, I thought that was going to be a boost for us, but it didn't really turn out quite that way.
Yeah. But up in Ogden, it's always popping. The Ogden Amphitheater, like there's usually a couple hundred people there. They have vendors, they have food, they have face painting. It's called Town in the Park for a reason. They got like a couple eagles they bring in. It's pretty sweet, man. It's pretty fun. Like me and Mandy genuinely enjoy getting a hotel room, meeting up with people the day before the event. So that's fun. That's exciting.
All right.
I also got the other half of my tattoo on my leg done. So that's new and good.
When was that?
Yesterday.
It looks good, man. Yeah, it looks good. Normally, I don't go, hey, nice tattoo, but it looks good.
Thank you.
I haven't seen it yet. Maybe I didn't.
Yeah,
I didn't pay attention. When I
Don't ask
in.
him about the face.
Yeah, it's still healing. It's a little red. But yeah, I sat for 6 hours straight yesterday, and the pain-pleasure balance in the brain?
Yeah.
When you sit and you get a tattoo for 6 hours,
The pain.
it's a lot of pain.
Yeah.
You go home and you shower, and I'm telling you, I felt like I was on cloud 9. I was like, am I
Really?
floating? I might be floating right now.
Really?
Yeah.
It's just
think about
gas.
it. It's like did you say it was just gas?
Yeah, it was just gas.
Yeah.
I think it's,
Well, there you go.
if you think about it, like when you think of a cold plunge, the reason people like feel good afterwards is because you were miserable for the 3 to 5 minutes when you were in the cold plunge.
Okay. Shall I explain that
Please
scientifically to the listeners?
Please do.
What do we have any natural chemicals in our brain that help us deal with pain?
Absolutely.
What are they called?
Dopamine,
Okay. But there's another one that's
neuroepinephrine, serotonin.
no.
I'm just going to keep naming stuff.
No, they're called as a class of medications. They're related to opiates. They're called endorphins.
And if I would have just kept naming them, I would have
They're called
eventually
endorphins. Endorphins. So the first part of that word, endo, means they come from inside. Basically, they're in our brain, right? And the orphan is from the endorphins comes from the basically the same root word as
From the adopted little
morphine,
kid you
right?
got from the...
Right, not exactly, but yeah, I knew that was coming. But the endorphins are released in your brain in response to pain, and they help you deal with some pain,
Yeah.
right? And that's why. So the runner's high is from endorphins,
Right.
When you're running and you're running that long, it creates a fair amount of pain in your body, and your body releases the endorphins to help you deal with that. And the endorphins are opiate-like substances. With a relatively short half-life, but they're an opiate-like substance, and so the runner's high is based on that, right? If you're doing 6 hours of pain in your leg, your brain's going to release some endorphins so that you can tolerate it.
That makes total sense.
And
man.
that's why you felt really good after, is the pain had stopped, like the source of the pain, which is sticking a needle into your skin 1,000,000 times.
Gazillion times.
Right, and that source of that pain has gone away, but the endorphins haven't quite gone away. So now you're not having the pain, but you're still got a little bit of the endorphins.
Well, in the opposite side of that, that's why like people feel like junk when they get off. So there's a book called Dopamine Nation that I recently read, and I'm actually going in April 18th. I'm going to a seminar the author is putting on about this. It's about how the brain works with dopamine. Yeah, it's
Where
up there
is
in
that?
Sandy, Utah. It's
Really?
18th and 19th. Yeah,
I should go.
she's coming to Salt Lake City.
I should go to that. Where is
Let's
it?
do it.
I know it's in Sandy, but do you know where?
I don't off the top of my head.
All right. Well, we don't need to do that on the podcast, but
Right, but
get me that
the
info, 'cause
author
I'd
of
love
that
to go
book
with
is
you.
coming, and
Okay.
she does a really good job. And basically, what she talks about is these gremlins, these pain and pleasure gremlins. And if you're thinking of a teeter-totter, if the pain scale has so many gremlins on it, eventually the brain's going to register that.
Wait, what word did you just say?
Gremlins,
No, the thing that you do this on.
teeter-totter.
Sean?
Teeter.
Teety. Yes.
Teeter.
Thank you. It's
Totter.
a teeter.
What'd you call it? Teety totter?
Yeah.
Teeter-totter.
No.
Teeter.
Listen,
Teeter
okay,
totter.
you two and like
You were the
correcting my English.
You were the dumbest 2-year-old ever.
Okay, well,
Just kidding.
so
I
anyways,
think
if there's three kids on one end, let's call that the pain, which is
Okay.
what I experienced.
Yeah, three kids on one side of a teeter-totter.
Yes.
Teeter.
Yeah.
Totter.
T-O-T.
Totter.
Right.
Was this you on
Teeter
the screen? With
There he is.
That, yeah.
There he is.
the roll.
Yeah.
There's a calculator on one of the screens.
So-
somebody just made $2.1 million.
No, that's 2.1 million hits of the ink pen while you were getting your tattoo. I did some quick math.
Oh, wow.
So you said 100 times a second times 6 hours is 2.1 million little injections into your skin. So
That's why you release endorphins. That's a lot of little needles in your skin. Okay.
The brain is trying to get that, whatever you guys call it, to balance out.
Yes.
So if there are more little gremlins on the pain side, it's going to release.
Thanks for bringing that up. I'm going to
norepinephrine.
stop you in the middle of that story. That's a super important concept in brain science. Your brain likes balance.
Yeah.
Your brain likes what we call homeostasis. It does not like change. It likes homeostasis, and it's always trying to accomplish homeostasis.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
so yeah.
So you got
Those
three,
are my new and
you
goods,
got
man.
you got three guys on one side of a teeter-totter.
Oh, yeah.
That's the pain,
That's the pain. The brain is going to release the endorphins.
which is the other side of the teeter-totter in that particular instance, right? And so it's going to release enough endorphins.
Okay, so
that
we got three
you have
guys on
balance.
one side and 2 million
And some
pokes on the other side.
Right, some endorphins
no,
on the
the
other
2
side.
million pokes represent the three. This is going sideways.
You know, I mean, I was used to I'm on a
Dopamine-
train going to Chicago at 35 miles an hour, but this is some new math
If
stuff,
the-
man.
What
I
if
don't
the
know.
wind? What if the wind's blowing the other way though? That's the problem.
Dopamine Nation. Read the book Dopamine Nation. It's an interesting book. Yeah, and then
But it makes a stop in Omaha, right? Sorry, I'm going back to every math problem, like story problem I ever remember. Okay,
you
eight,
too, man.
8 more people get on the train.
Three guys are on a teeter-totter on a train going to Chicago, stopping in Albuquerque when the wind is blowing west. One is getting a tattoo. What's his wife's name?
How
Hey, Donovan, what's your new and good,
how
man?
can
Let's
you
keep
teach a
this thing
fish to ride a
going.
bike?
We're 20 minutes into just complete nonsense.
Oh, my new and good. Let's see. We talked about Death Valley,
yeah.
though, didn't we, last time?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I told you guys about my trip. So I got some new and adventure. I don't know how you guys want to hear my. I already
We
told
do.
both of you.
We do.
So just Dad's got looks like Dad's got lung cancer.
Oh,
So I guess
where does your father live?
San Jose.
Okay.
So that's a good 10, 12-hour drive, or what is it? 200? Was it
Well,
450
it
out of?
depends on which way the wind's blowing.
Yeah, we'll have
right.
to stop in Albuquerque to pick up a tattoo artist and his wife. I don't know. Now, so I think the good is the we don't know how long or whatnot, but there is a time frame there. And the good is that I can now take the time to say, hey, I'm going to be making more trips to San Jose, spending more time with the family, and
Sure.
making good time for him so he feels good with his time left, and making good memories for me that I'll take with me.
What a
It's amazing, man.
yeah.
There was a period in my
super sad, but what a productive way to approach that.
Yeah. There was a period in my life when my dad was put on hospice where I knew that there wasn't going to be ample amount of time left. And I had the opportunity to take him and do things with him that he did with me when I was a boy growing up, right? We went to our favorite fishing spot, and we went to the Ogden Raptors baseball game and the Salt Lake City Bees baseball game. And looking back, I am so grateful that I had that opportunity. Even though it was super hard, the loss, man, some of the best times, and I feel like I was pretty present because I knew that we weren't going to most likely do this a second time or another time. So that's a gift, Donovan.
Yeah.
I'm going to take it.
Create it. Yeah, you're creating it. I
Yeah.
like it.
Thanks, buddy. Doc Sellers,
Yeah.
what's doing good with you?
Oh, nothing. Okay, so
We're golfing tomorrow. That's not true.
well,
man.
one thing is new and good for me is I picked up a 21-year chip. I have been without controlled substances in my body. Without, it doesn't have to be a controlled substance, but for me it always was. Right?
Mine
I
don't
didn't
drink
drink.
substance,
Well, hold on a second. I got to type that word controlled. Isn't it uncontrolled substances?
Yes.
Isn't that probably the proper terminology?
It's supposed to be. It's federally controlled. Like the government wants to control it.
Oh, okay. So is there a category of uncontrolled substances?
Yes, sure, cocaine.
Okay, all right.
Well, so actually, all those substances are on the federal controlled substance list, even though
Yeah.
they're not. Like
just
the
no-
government can't really control because you don't buy cocaine as a retail purchase, right? That's on the side of the
God.
road. The government can't control that. But
That's why
anyway,
that's
so
why the cartel owns Costco.
So I haven't. Yes, they do. I have not, and the chickens are the same price as they were when they first opened. Freewheeling, baby. Freewheeling with the host. We got 40 seconds left.
I was going to hit you with
I
this
know.
when we came back.
We got-
Congratulations on 21 years, and we're going to dive into that.
Yeah, so 21 years, feels good. I want to talk about that a little bit too, because I think that's important stuff. And then the other thing that's new and good is it's March Madness time. I like March Madness. BYU's already lost in the first round of the tournament, which stunk because they had a pretty good year. They deserved to play better, but they didn't play very well. So that part's over. But the tournament, I love this tournament. It's fun. And it's almost time to go. So we've freewheeled for 25 minutes already. That was pretty good. We'll be back after a short message from our sponsors, Steps Recovery Center.
You are listening to We Do Recover with Jared Miller and co-hosted by Dr. Terry Sellers. We'll be right back after this short break with more of We Do Recover with Jared Miller. Brought to you by Steps Recovery Center, Rise Up Subs in the St. George Hilton Garden Inn.
If you or your loved one is trapped in the cycle of addiction, there is a way out.
At Steps Recovery Center in Utah, we believe in second chances and new beginnings. Our evidence-based treatments, compassionate staff, and supportive community guide you on the path to recovery.
It is time to reclaim your life. Take the first step towards freedom, resilience, and a brighter tomorrow. Reach out to Steps Recovery Centers today.
Recovery starts with you, and at Steps, there is always hope. Call us or visit our website to learn more.
We welcome you back to We Do Recover with Jared Miller, co-hosted by Dr. Terry Sellers. Brought to you by Steps Recovery Center, Rise Up Subs in the St. George Hilton Garden Inn. And now with part 2 of our podcast, Jared Miller and Dr. Terry Sellers.
All right, welcome back, everybody. This is episode number 147 of We Do Recover with Jared Miller. Jared Miller is in the studio with me. I'm the co-host, Dr. Terry Sellers. We also have our producer, Sean Denovan. So we got the whole crew here.
I love that we keep announcing that like we haven't done 147 of these things. Hopefully, if you're new to this podcast, that's who we are. But
There's that.
hopefully you've been with us at least from the first 100.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point. But I'll tell you who's missing today.
Who?
Well, we had a guest scheduled, and he's not here. So we have been mostly freewheeling and shooting the breeze and not talking tons about any particular topic. But
been fun.
That's
Like, we've
because
been
we
able to
got.
check in and
I'm
share
okay
some
with it.
personal
Like,
stuff.
I've enjoyed it for sure, but we did have something slightly different planned, and we got bombed on the last minute. So also. I was doing new and goods. The other thing is I drove down here today, and the drive was just terrible. Like, there was a wreck outside of Hurricane that cost me an extra 25 or 30 minutes of time, and so we were running late. But all right, well, part 2, by the way, is brought to you by the Hilton Garden Inn. Now, the Hilton Garden Inn, if you happen to be traveling through southern Utah, Google, give them a little search. I shouldn't advertise Google, just a search engine. I don't care what search engine you use. You don't have to use Google, but give them a search on the internet. Hilton Garden Inn. It is in St. George, Utah, and the Hilton Garden Inn is they have great service. They have great people. The people are friendly. They're super helpful. The rooms are large. The amenities are really nice. Their pool is great, and their hot tub is great. They have a weight room. They've got a decent restaurant that serves pretty good food,
And they're right next to a lot of great restaurants.
and they're right next to some really good restaurants too. Yeah, if you want a nice little steak, you walk across the parking lot. And
Yep.
So so Hilton Garden Inn.
We appreciate them sponsoring
Yep,
this podcast.
they've been with us since the beginning. So
Doc
we
Sellers.
appreciate them. Yeah,
21 years.
21
we
years
did an
of
episode.
continuous recovery.
We did an episode called
year
Sellers
ago.
Hits 20-ish.
Yeah.
It was, I think, more than, was it a year? No, you actually only had 19 at the time. I think it was like 2 years ago.
Yeah. Right.
So
I was thinking
21,
19 was 20, and it wasn't. It was 19.
Right. That's why
turns
we
out.
put 20-ish.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
kind of a joke because you
'Cause
know, you remember the
I've
day
blanked on
because
it.
it's on St. Patty's Day.
Right.
But you can never, you have a hard time remembering the year.
Yeah.
But
There's two interesting things with that, and the first thing is, so I picked up a coin. I got a coin. It's got a 3-leaf clover on it.
yeah. It's cool, man.
Because it's St. Patty's Day, right? But there's two interesting things about that, and one is my sobriety date really isn't St. Patrick's Day.
It's the day after.
That's the last day I used an opiate. But I just have an easy time remembering St. Patrick's Day, so I've always called that my sober birthday. It's really, frankly, the 18th, but it is what it is. And then,
It's a good way to remember it.
right, it's easy for me. Well, I told you this story. Once upon a time, I had requested records from my doctor's office because the state wanted my medical records because I got in some trouble for using morphine while I was a doctor. What? Yeah. Apparently, that's not good. That's frowned upon. So I requested my records to send to DOPL, to the Division of Professional Licensing, and I rifled through it, and it's a stack of papers that was, almost 2 inches thick. And each one of those pieces of paper was a separate record of a doctor's visit where the doctor gave me a shot of morphine. Now, that's not the only reason I went to that doctor, but that was 99% of why I went to that doctor.
Sure.
And he's a good guy. He was not an enabler, but he did give me a lot of shots of morphine. None of it he would never push me to get morphine. That's not the case.
Yeah, you're not putting it on him.
I was pushing him. Yeah. And I had migraine headaches and stuff. But anyway, I rifled through those papers before I sent them to the state, and the very last one that I had was March 17th. And I can see right where that date is on that page, and that's kind of what my recollection is of when I got clean and sober. So
I love it, man. I love it.
That's me.
So answer me this question. Living in recovery for 21 years, what does that look like for you? Because I think we're very similar. I don't know that you're a huge, hit meetings type of guy. What is it you would say really helps motivate you and keep you on the path that you're on?
Well, yeah, I don't go to very many meetings anymore. There's no question. I used to go to a lot more meetings than I do, and I did 90 meetings in 90 days once upon a time, and I think the meetings are incredibly valuable. I also had a place where I went to treatment that had an aftercare program and it was A&D Psychotherapy in Sandy. Shout out to those guys because they've been super helpful to me. That used to be run by the very well-respected Michael Dussault and his wife Tammy Dussault, and now their son Dylan, who has his own personal story of recovery, is now running it.
Get him on the podcast.
And we need to get Dylan on here. He's a really good guy.
Dylan, you've been called out.
Yeah, I love him. But anyway, they used to have an aftercare program where for the first 6 months after treatment, you could go to as many aftercare meetings of theirs as you wanted for free. But they were professionally led. They were not just like an AA meeting. They were a professionally led aftercare thing, right? And they had an aftercare meeting on, Monday nights, I think, Wednesday at noon, Friday at noon, and Friday nights.
Man, look at the memory recall on you.
I'm thinking that's
so a couple
not
days
right,
a week.
But they had 2 aftercare meetings. They had 4 aftercare meetings a week, 2 of them at noon and 2 of them at 6 p.m.
Wow.
And you could go to any or all of them. And I loved those meetings. They were great. So I went to a bunch of those also, in addition to some AA meetings. And I never drank. But I also went to some NA meetings and just couldn't quite find my crowd there, right?
Yeah.
It just it didn't quite work all that well for me. So I settled on a couple of AA meetings that I would go to. Lunch Bunch in Orem was Tuesdays at noon at a restaurant, and I liked that meeting. That was a good meeting. Had some long-term sobriety in there. Some guys that were, had been around for a while that have been clean and sober for a long time. But I'm also, now that I've been clean for 21 years, I don't go to as many meetings. It's been a minute since I've actually been to a meeting. Not when I say a minute, it's not been 6 months, but it's probably been 2 months. But I wouldn't encourage that.
Yeah.
I would say that going to meetings kept me in contact with the stuff that I needed to be in contact with. When I first started going to meetings, my purpose in going to a meeting was A, somebody told me to, and I was trying to follow what they said, and B, I was looking for somebody with some long-term sobriety that could be a sponsor, or at minimum that I could look up to.
Yeah.
Right. That's not why I go to meetings anymore. I would say there's not that many people at meetings when I go that have longer sobriety than I do anymore.
Makes sense.
I go to see the new guy walking through the door, who walks in and sits down and says, "Well, it all started when," and then invariably they say, "I stopped going to meetings." But I've heard that story a million times. So
I think it's
that's why I
possible,
still
though,
go.
to
I think
keep
that
at the forefront of your mind that, because one of the things, let's pretend neither one of us work in this field
Right.
called
Right.
alcohol and drug treatment, right? One of the things I feel like it's easy for people to do is to lose track of the idea that you're powerless once you start.
Well, that's something that, yes, I think
And-
that's the critical part of. That's part of what meetings do for people is
They keep it in the forefront
keep
of
it
their
in
mind.
the forefront of your mind that I have a problem's not even the right word. I know how my brain.
Propensity?
Yes, really good word.
You
I
like that
it.
word,
Yeah.
Sean?
Spell that for me.
I can't.
P. That's about as far as I got.
It's teeter-totter,
Okay, so you have
Okay. propensitotter.
okay.
I have a really right now have a really easy time. I just never forget that that's how my brain works.
Yeah.
And I know how it works with opiates, but I've also tried some other stuff, right? Not just opiates. I didn't really drink very much, but I know that my brain likes that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I have no problem. I never forget that that's how my brain works.
I bet working in the field.
But I
that
think
we
part
work
of that
in-
is working in the field
Yeah.
helps because I'm seeing people every single
Every
day,
day.
right? But yeah, I think that's important. I do a lot of things that are not meetings that still remind me that I'm a person in long-term recovery. I have dailies. I have things that I do that on a daily basis that remind me how my brain works. And so I'm not out there forgetting it.
Yeah, I like it. I often think back to one of the things I was taught, because I did AA for the first 5 years, and to your point, alcohol wasn't necessarily my thing, but per the definition of the big book, I was showed by a sponsor that I'm an alcoholic. Take the alcohol out of it, the behaviors absolutely made me one, right?
Yeah.
Just replace one chemical for another.
Right.
But I was taught 9 steps to freedom, 3 steps maintenance. Right? So
Sure.
the last 3 steps continue to take moral inventory,
Right.
pray and
Share the message.
meditate, and then share the message. Yeah, those 3 are kind of the ones that I try to do on a daily basis. Yeah. So that's cool. I like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Congratulations on 21 years.
I also fairly frequently do. I do the other 3 fairly frequently.
1, 2, and 3.
1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, we just talked about
I'm
that.
powerless. I got a problem that I can't seem to do on my own. Is there something out there that could help me with that? And
Yeah.
maybe I'll let that something out there help me with it. I go through that a fair amount. Like I go through 1, 2, and 3, really, even that briefly sometimes, but sometimes in a little more depth. But yeah, I have a problem that I couldn't fix on my own and never did fix on my own. There was something out there that was smarter about that problem than I was. And I turned that part of my life completely over to God. Not completely is not quite the right word, but yeah, I couldn't fix it on my own.
Yeah.
And when I
to
let
let
go
go.
of that, then all of a sudden I started getting better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. Again, congratulations. I remember
Thanks.
last year when you hit 20 and that was fun. We
Yeah, my wife
had a little party at
That
your
was fun.
house.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good time. It was a real
Yeah.
good time.
Cool.
So, in the mashup of things,
Yes.
there's with Sean announcing that his father's going through some tough stuff and he's not going to be able to do this. I don't know how much longer, we're going to keep doing this at the rate that we can.
Yeah.
But this may be towards the ends, one of the last podcasts we do maybe for a while. I know right now we're trying to book a schedule, but it feels like the universe is like steering in a different direction. It's like me and Sean were talking about this earlier. Like I'll have a guest set up
Yeah.
and then Sean will have to switch something, or I'll have a guest set up and Sean will be here and good to go. And then the guest ends up falling out. Like
Right.
it's just hard to try to plan and
Right.
You know what I mean?
And then I drive down and hit a traffic jam and
right. Like it's getting a little more difficult.
yeah, we'll see. It's possible that we slow this thing down. It's possible that we change formats. It's possible that I don't know.
You know what motivates me to keep going?
I'm enjoying it. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
I still like doing this. Like, I have a lot of fun doing this.
Yeah, I enjoy it as well. So when listeners reach out, like Caitlin did, Caitlin reached out February 28th. She said, quick note, I love your podcast. I agree with you, and I really hope more people can normalize talking about the link between sexual/mental/physical abuse and substance abuse or addiction. But most of all, I love to hear people talk about how it's possible and how great recovery is, no matter how long it takes to get there. I think I finally realized how important a community is in recovery and how difficult it is to find that community, especially when you need it the most. And sometimes you find it in the most unexpected places. The chill I got when Bree talked about the mask, and she puts in parentheses, who do you want me to be, around sexual abuse often leaves on a victim, was overwhelmingly real for me. As a survivor who struggled with addiction, it was actually euphoric and invigorating in a way to hear her talk about her story. So then she kind of goes on to, it's a long email, but just getting emails like that, like that's super cool.
Yeah, for sure.
So I won't say her full name, but Caitlin,
Yeah.
thank you for
Well,
reaching
nice.
out. Thank
Yeah.
you for listening. Appreciate that. Yeah, and I love that. We get emails. I got a couple more here. Maybe we'll get to, but let's
I like
stop
that.
on that
I
one.
like the first part of that one, and that is, we were talking about in my recovery, we were talking about meetings, right? Meetings can provide that community for people, right? It is a place to find individuals who struggle with some similar problems to you.
Yeah.
And the problems that they struggle with, it's so difficult to explain the problem that happens in my brain to people that have never struggled with it.
Yeah.
Right? My wife is so wonderful. She's she's great. She doesn't totally understand, I think, why my brain was so attracted to opiates.
Yeah.
Well, let's be honest, I'm not sure I totally understand that either. But at least when talking to someone else who has that exact same problem, another opiate addict, for example, they know, like when I describe this overwhelming urge to go out and shoot some morphine, like they're like, yeah, duh.
They get
and
it.
my wife's like, why would you ever consider doing that again? Well, I'm not really necessarily considering it, but that's what my brain does.
Yeah.
Right?
I heard somebody describe it really well once. They said, imagine if you didn't know what the color blue looked like and you
Try to describe it.
Yeah, and somebody's trying to describe the color blue to you.
Yeah.
It's just going to be over your head. You're right. Like you don't have anything to formulate the experience of seeing the color blue, so you wouldn't understand. And a lot of people, they just don't. They don't.
Right.
There's also I feel like I just blanked.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's all right.
So here's the other side of that. I feel like meetings are great. It's fantastic. I know that you shared that, you have 21 years without any mind-altering substances. So there's another email in here where somebody says, hey, Jared, I listened to the episode about that you talked about doing ketamine. Do you still consider yourself in recovery? And I'm like, wow.
Interesting question, right?
Yeah, because I guess if...
First of all, your first reaction is to defend your own personal recovery, right?
Yeah.
That's where I would go with that, is I would automatically whoa, dude, lighten up.
Well, and I think it's ridiculous, too, that, so let's say you're in a car wreck and you go to the hospital and they hit you with some morphine
sticking out of your arm.
Right? So because it was prescribed by a doctor for a reason,
right?
Would you consider yourself?
Right.
So I feel like there's some stigma around people that don't understand substance abuse. And then there can be some stigma around people who are in the rooms because I guess according to AA in Utah County, maybe not. Maybe not.
I've taken a lot of shots in meetings for not being a person who struggles with alcohol because I chose to go to a bunch of AA meetings, but I never really drank.
Yeah.
Right. And so you'll get the occasional old timer that would speak up and it's an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. And then someone else would speak up and say, a drug's a drug's a drug. It's all the same thing. And, I never really defended myself when somebody did that, but I would talk about using in an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, and using to me was slightly different than an alcoholic who is using, right?
Right. So there can be kind of that stigma even amongst ourselves.
There's still stigma. This is interesting because when we first found out today that a guest was not going to be able to make it on the show, one of my first reactions was I was going to try to come up with some sort of topic, which we didn't quite totally do, but I started reading some articles, and I read an article on how alcohol, liver problems from alcohol have risen dramatically in the last 20 years.
Okay.
What that brought to my mind is, and this is going to tie in with the whole ketamine thing too, right? What that brought to my mind is we as people who struggle with substance use you can go several ways with this, but sometimes early in recovery, first of all, I remember thinking, God, if I could just step off the curb and twist my ankle, I could probably get some pain pills, right?
Sure.
If I could just get a tooth pulled, I could probably get some pain pills, right? If I could just have like a kidney infection or
I literally
a kidney
smashed my
stone.
hand in my car to go to the ER to get pain pills. Yeah,
right,
I absolutely.
but that's
know what
when
you're
we're
talking
using. But in early recovery, even we still had some of those thoughts, right?
about. Sure.
And so I still had some of those thoughts. But I think one of the things that you get to at some point in recovery is this understanding that no, there's no excuse for pain pills for me. And so I look for ways not to take pain pills, ways to avoid taking pain medications and pain pills. But then, and here's where the ketamine comes, because we have a lot of people. If you introduce the possibility of ketamine in a treatment center to the patients, how many of them you think want it?
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure.
Every one of them. And
But it shouldn't be like a sign-up list.
It
shouldn't be like a sign-up list, right?
There's no question.
Like for me
right?
in my stories, I was going to a therapist and I was struggling with some depression, some anxiety stuff, right? And she basically said, and I said to her, I'm not going back on medications because
I'm not going to take benzos.
they make it worse for me, or even SSRIs, right?
Okay.
Get fat, get sweaty, no sex drive. Like, no thanks. Not signing up for that again. And she was the one that actually said, have you thought about this new treatment called, ketamine? And so I think it all kind of goes back to this. I've come to realize this, and I don't necessarily want to speak on this the entire time, but I get, number one, yes, I absolutely do, because I'm not the one prescribing it. I'm not the one administering it. I'm not.
And you're
right?
not even the one that brought it up.
Right.
Right.
Number two, I can't be in this thing we call recovery if like my mental health isn't right and I end up killing myself or going back out and using heroin.
No question.
So for me, it's like the mental health for me has to come first before, like I have to be taking care of my mental health. Otherwise, it's just a matter of time.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Sure.
Sometimes we can get caught up in these like times and dates and chips and like all this stuff. And that's good. And I get it. Like I understand why. And it's a motivator and it helps definitely. Positive reinforcement. We also do have to like acknowledge, like there's some stuff out there that helps your mental health.
So to me, that goes back to the concept of where is your brain at the time, right? First of all, if you're taking something that a doctor prescribed that, one, you didn't seek out.
Right.
If you sought it out, that's a different story, right? But if you're taking something that a doctor prescribed, you're taking it as it was prescribed for the condition for which it was prescribed. How is that not recovery? That's absolutely recovery, right? Now, I do know for me that I'm going to try my best to avoid taking pain pills at all costs. And I have done it. Like we were doing this podcast when I had all my bottom teeth replaced.
Yeah.
And I did it without anything other than Tylenol and ibuprofen. And it was tough. I had a few days there that I'm like, oh, this was a bad decision. I'm dying here.
Yeah.
Right? But let's be honest, I'm not dying here. I didn't die from that pain. And opiates can kill me. I know that. So where's your brain? If you're taking something a doctor prescribed and your brain is like, well, I'm worried about this, but the doctor says it's the best idea for me, so I'm going to do this. If that's where your brain is, you're in a good spot. If your brain is, man, I'm glad I get to do this. This is great. I want to do ketamine. Let me go find a doctor that'll give it to me.
Sure, then you're
You're in relapse mode already.
I get that.
So,
also, we talked about mind-altering substances. There are medications people take on an everyday basis. It's a mind-altering substance. So
Sure.
Do we need to reset those clean dates? Just food for thought. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Let's see. There was one more email.
Okay.
So Matt,
We're about out of time, which is
I appreciate Matt Jackson. Hey Jared, this is Matt. I would love to come on and share my story of recovery. I absolutely love the work that you and Dr. Sellers are doing to spread a message of hope and let people know that there are people out there who have been through what the listener is going through. I would love to come on and share my experience, strength, and hope and let people know that they are not alone. Man.
Oh,
awesome.
We'd love to have somebody like that on.
Yeah.
Right.
Love it.
Yeah, I think that's a critical part of recovery is that this goes back again to community. Let's let everyone know they're not alone. No one's alone. Everyone, you're not so unique that no one's ever experienced the problems you've experienced.
Yeah.
We've all had similar stuff. The details are going to be slightly different, but over the millions and millions of people afflicted with substance use disorders, probably someone's done almost exactly the same thing you've done.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well said. And if you think back to when we very first started this podcast, like that's what it was about. It was about spreading a message of hope, you know? So it's been fun.
Hey, guess what?
147.
We're about out of time. We got 20 seconds left. Everybody have a beautiful day. Stay clean and sober. Be careful. Be safe. And we'll see you next time on We Do Recover with Jared Miller.
Ready to hit some golf balls tomorrow.
There we go.
Still have 5 seconds left.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Thank you for joining us today on We Do Recover with Jared Miller.
Help us spread our message of hope. Like, comment, and share.
If you have any topics or ideas for future shows, please share that on our Facebook page.
That Facebook page is We Do Recover with Jared Miller. If you or a loved one needs help, please reach out to us. Again, thank you for listening.
Brought to you by Subs Recovery Center, Rise Up Subs, and the St. George Hilton Garden Inn. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast do not reflect those of its sponsors. This has been a production from A Podcast Studio.